So
when we were talking before, you wanted to kind of back up your
sure.
story and talk about his Peter's grandparents, right?
Yes,
Which
right.
yeah,
So my mom and dad
yep.
were an amazing couple. My mom was Irish, and that's where we get the Irishness. That's where they get their Irish citizenship
Mm-hmm.
through their grandmother. And she was one of the oldest of seven children, and her father died at the age of 15. Well, this is 1935, and so of course we know 1937, 39, all the way through 45. We've got a World War II going on, and so being a British citizen, then she joined the Royal Navy, Royal English Navy. She was a Wren, and so then she basically got her mom signed her papers that she was older than she was because she was then the bread maker. And so then what happens is she goes onto this troop ship and it starts to go around the Cape of Africa on their way to Cape Town. And lo and behold, when they get to Cape Town, they find out that there are four young ladies that are on that troop transport ship that are heading basically for Sri Lanka that are not even 18 years of age. They got to get them off that ship. So two of the girls are left in Cape Town. One gets left in Mombasa in Kenya, and then there's two left. And so I think my math may be wrong. So I just know my mom went with another gal, however many numbers there were, and so my mom went with another gal to a convent, a French convent in the Suez Canal area, and then eventually worked in an American embassy for the rest of the war because they couldn't get home. And
Because they're
so
too
then,
young.
right, they were too young, so that's why they had to get off the transport. But then when they got to these places, then they had to stay there the duration of the war
Because there's no
because you
travel.
couldn't
It's too
get
dangerous.
anywhere,
Yeah.
right? So there's no way they could get home. So my mom served in the British Navy for 7 years.
That's
Okay,
crazy.
and then after that, she then worked with UNRWA, which was the United Nations, basically getting people repatriated to their homes and etc. And then in the process, she met this wonderful rabbi named Rabbi Barak. And then Rabbi Barak was asking my mom if she would be interested in volunteering with a group out of New York that was actually sending money to be able to get identity documents for the Jewish people that had survived and now were in displacement camps awaiting to get into Jerusalem, into Israel.
Oh
Okay.
wow.
So my mom said, sure. And so she became a courier, and she would basically go and pick up a car, and inside were the gold bricks in the tire wells,
What?
underneath the trunk and etc. And she would get into like she'd go to Switzerland, go to Geneva. She'd have a contact. She'd drop off the vehicle. She'd go shopping, which was her cover. Then she'd come back, get
So like
back in the
spy
vehicle.
kind of
A courier, a
courier, but I mean, but clandestine
It
courier.
was definitely clandestine, but it was after the war. But it was everybody wanted to get back to the Zionists. They wanted to get to Israel,
Yeah.
but without papers, they couldn't.
Yeah.
So my mom was the courier of the organization of the rabbis and etc. to be able to pay the money for the papers. So she came in with money. She exited with identity documents, and then she was able to
Who's
give
making the identity document?
the identity documents were usually of people that had died, and so
They
they
had
were
to
able.
take other people's identities.
Right,
Oh my
because they were,
So it's like foragers, like
no,
so they're
no,
pa-
no. They were true people that had
No, I
had
know, but
lived.
like people were just getting like who was getting the documents?
Not sure how that happened.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, there's.
But that's
you
what
know,
the payment
they
has to
didn't
happen.
wanna
Like you had to
tell-
be like
there had to be a transfer. Here's the money for the payments
Yeah.
of the identity documents, and the less she knew, if she got in trouble, she didn't.
I mean
say.
that happened here
you
for
know.
years. That people were using dead people's
Social security
Mexicans
numbers, right,
were
mhm,
using
right.
just to get work. You know, like to pay,
Right.
and then it's funny because the government was fine with it because they're getting taxes off of dead people. And they're like, whatever.
Right.
They didn't like blind eye to it, like getting millions of dollars of taxes dollars from, and then the Mexicans never received any of that. Social Security. Like, that just went to the government.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But so that's what she was doing.
That's
and
crazy
then,
story.
She needed to go on an airplane, and my dad had served. When the war broke out, 1941. He became an officer and a pilot in the United. Well, back then it was the Army Air Corps, then it was the Navy, then finally it was the Air Force. Okay, but he was a pilot, and then he had come over and was flying for an airline in between. You know, the guys kind of, the war's over, so. You know, are we really wanting to be career military, and so there were different opportunities for them to do things. And so he was flying this airplane, which basically took people from
So he
one
was
area to the
American.
other. He was American. My mom was British, right?
Okay.
And Irish. And so she's from Northern Ireland, so that's why she gets to be Irish, but she's actually a British citizen. Okay. So, so then what happens is they meet on this airplane. And he's the pilot, and she's one of the few people that are on the plane, and they're headed to Berlin to do my mom was doing another exchange type situation.
Yeah.
And so, of course, she was quite attractive, and she was very funny, and she was Irish, and how could you not be interested?
Yeah.
And so then she came back, and then they kind of pursued each other all over Germany and the other places. And so then they came to the States, and
It's
Mom
like a
was
movie.
a war bride. Yeah, and it
Their
gets,
story's
it gets
like a
more and
movie.
more, but we grew
A
up.
Casablanca kind of movie.
But we grew up understanding that we were of two cultures.
Yeah.
We definitely had my mother that was convinced that July 4th was one of the saddest days, not the happiest days.
Really?
Because those colonists actually rebelled against King George.
Yeah.
You know, and that wasn't right. That
Oh,
wasn't right,
really?
you know.
Oh,
So,
wow.
You know, so, and then there were various
dad-
other things.
and your
that
dad was in the
and my dad's
army.
in the military.
So
You
he was
better
like-
believe it.
he's like-
No, July 4th is a very good thing.
Yeah, July-
But then she became nationalized, and so then she changed. But it was just cute. She spoke her mind.
Maybe she just
and
didn't like
spoke
all
her
that
heart.
tea that was dumped. She's like, that's a
Yeah,
waste
that
of
was
tea.
such a waste. Such a waste. Yeah.
Let me talk for just a second, help me feel that sense of rhythm. Find the meanings in our bearings and discover this position as a stage along the way. Another rung to the ladder, either stalling or you're climbing, and I'd rather beat the ladder. Instead of getting fatter, let the footsteps resume naturally.